Oh yeah, and I got told a story about that book launch, or is it lie launch, or whatever launch. I'm told that even royal heads were busy fighting at the entrance to enter, because just like everything associated with these ruiners, they couldn't even organize a book launch.
So guys, Mr. Dele Farotimi has equally lent his voice in condemning IBB for the recently revealed information that he gave to Nigerians, saying that the June 12th election was annulled because of pressure. He also talked about the coup not being an Igbo coup. So I just wanted to take your time and listen to what Mr. Dele Farotimi said, how he reacted to that revelation by IBB. Just take your time and watch this. Take a look. So guys,
He annulled the election. And 32 years later, this man presumes to rewrite history by his tissues of lies, half-truths, urban legends, and what have you. A general, because he was afraid of Sani. A general. The only person who appears to still be alive amongst the many people who should be blamed instead of Ibrahim Badamashi Babangida, David Mark. That's the only one I think that is still alive. Every other person, they are dead. Yorubas will say, those intent on lying always have dead witnesses. All of Babangida's witnesses are dead. Oh yeah, and I got told a story about that book launch, or is it lie launch, or whatever launch. I'm told that even royal heads were busy fighting at the entrance to enter, because just like everything associated with these ruiners, they couldn't even organize a book launch without stress. I was told of an Oba from Yoruba land. I won't mention names and I won't bother to describe. With his staff and office and crown and everything, they were busy pushing him around because he wanted to enter and the hall was full. I was told of a presidential candidate who was told he had no space in the VIP lounge. And yet, they were all busy, jostling over each other to be in a place that merely validates the lies, the evils that have overtaken Nigeria. Who and who responsible for the ruination of Nigeria wasn't sat in that room, and even the wannabes. So let me go into that. Some people might, for whatever reason, believe themselves obliged to be there. But as far as I'm concerned, if you had anything of value attached to history and your place therein, you really had no business in that gathering. The road to the elections of 2023 came through 1993. It was history repeating itself 30 years later. And the only reason it stood is because other frauds had stood in the past. IBB started it. Obasanjo reinforced it. There is nothing Bulaba is doing in power today that hadn't been done by those who occupied the seat before him. And each and every one of those who believes that there is some sort of redemption that might be found within the current system merely fools themselves. It is not my job to make you feel good with yourself, but it is my duty to tell you what I believe to be the truth. Am I infallible? Far from it. I made horrible errors, both in my own personal life, my economy. I make errors every day, every last day, like each and every one of you. But when it comes to the subject of this our country, I think it is time we're honest enough with each other to tell ourselves the truth. However long we travel along our current trajectory, in the absence of an urgent reverse from our current trajectory, Nigeria will be destroyed by the lies that it has deified. It is sometimes quite disheartening when one is presented with the shameless spectacle of what took place in Abuja. It is quite disheartening. Disheartening that Men are so completely lacking in sense of shame that they could not even see how the entire spectacle inverts normalcy and defines the insanity that has overtaken us. Enough said. And that is that as far as that is concerned. Go a few seconds before 10 o'clock. And then we can deal with this week's sermon. I see that question. When am I going to sue? My people say, Urukota Abama Somoeni, any long way. An action speaks louder than words. That is not to say you shouldn't speak, but when you are done speaking, act. I've spoken enough on the affair issue. I reserve my further actions for the courts. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a brand new day. And yes, don't worry, we're working out arrangements to ensure that we collect your tithe and offering when you come to church going forward. Yes, make no mistake about it. This is church. You could have been in one of your churches, but you have elected to be with me this morning. So please, welcome to church. Now, for those who came earlier, you're already familiar with the provocations that led to today's topic. Now, here is the thing. I hate reactions. I don't like reactions. Reactions are for, usually, unless it's a reaction born of urgency, reactions are actually for less intelligent beings. Responses, on the other hand, is what the intelligent being would do. You assess the situation if you have time, you carefully study it, and then you respond. Response means that you're not being emotional. So let's just say that I might be a little emotional this morning. I have tried my best, and I will try my best to keep this as unemotional as I possibly can. But when you consider the fact that I am necessarily talking about events that shaped my youth, or rather that defined my youth and has shaped my life and defined a lot of the choices that I have had to make in my life. My subject this morning is titled The Land Devoid of Memories. You heard that right. The land devoid of memories. I love my definitions, but this one is pretty straightforward. I was going to title it The Land of Amnesiacs, people who forget too easily. Nigerians almost always remember nothing of consequence, but they also forget without stress. I was told of an Oba from Yoruba land. I won't mention names and I won't bother to describe. With the staff of get nothing that divides them. Even the evidences of their own highs are quickly forgotten. And in their intentional purpose of forgetting, they deny the evidence of their own sight. Yorubas have a proverb. They say, "Bọ́mọdé ò bá bátan, dandan ni kó bá àrọ́bá, àrọ́bá sì ni bàbá àtàn." I'll interpret for you. He says that even if the child does not have recorded history, ìtàn, he must have the oral history, àrọ́bá, something told by somebody who was there. So even if it has not become the stuff of legend to the point of notoriety where nobody is arguing about what are the facts for you to meet it as part of the history of your people or of the space occupied by you, there must be someone, because if it is contemporary history, there must be someone who witnessed it and who can tell you what happened. But this is for a people who do not just dwell in the present. This is memory. The capacity to remember is given to those who have retained the capacity to think, who have retained the capacity to discern. Those are the ones who have the capacity to remember, to memorialize, to retain their recollection of what had gone before. But when a people have been purposefully, deliberately rendered existential as the Nigerian has been, what tends to happen is that they are focused on what are they going to eat? Where are they going to live? How safe are they where they are living or existing? These basic considerations that we should be well above are the things that preoccupies the Nigerian. He gets up in his house if he's living in a place like Lagos and is employed at any distance from his home, whether self-employed or working for someone else. The average person living in Lagos does not sleep beyond 5 o'clock. Average, I said, I did not talk. Anyway, so he does not get back home again until about 11 in the evening. And those are the bulk of those who should be the critical mass of thinkers, memorializers, those who have kept memories that shapes their future. They're too occupied. Weaponized poverty, weaponized ignorance that constantly tells them what to think, who to blame. Their oppressors own the media, print and electronic. They belong to the oppressors. When the lion is the one that repeatedly tells the story of the hunt, it will always glorify the predator. Constantly, they are told who to hate, subtly and by innuendos, and their memories are distorted where they are left. So you've got weaponized ignorance, you've got weaponized poverty. So how do such a people retain their capacity to remember? Where they have failed to make the people forget, they have either falsified history or sullied the memories of the heroes, the labors of heroes past. What heroes, I pray? Can you really, in good conscience, point to a single Nigerian hero that had not been destroyed by the specter of religiosity, ethnicity, or some other slander or propaganda, so that those in the present who have ruined and are continuing to ruin the country do not have anyone by which they might be compared? Look, it is not by accident that for over 2 decades, history was removed from our curriculum. The curriculum is already useless enough as it is. It's graduating engineers that cannot build roads, and you still have to bring engineers from Lebanon, from Turkey, from China, everywhere but Nigeria, on almost all major projects in a country of over 200 million people. We are exporting. Look, don't let me be derailed. Critical point is this: deliberately, almost everybody capable of remembering have found themselves undermined by something or the other. They've either been forced into some form of exile or the other, or they've been bought and silenced. So nobody ever seems to remember anything again. They demand that we must forget. And you know, the thing about our memories, and it is critical that we never ever forget this. The thing about our memories is that they are also the guides to our future. Your memory of what transpired the other time would help you to remember what choices to avoid today. Look, let me share something with you. After the NSAS protest in 2020, I began to observe a very strange phenomenon on my Facebook feed. Facebook was my introduction to social media. And then I noticed something very strange began to happen in early 2021, actually. I couldn't access my Facebook memories. So I had my lawyers write a letter to Facebook for no reason whatsoever. Every other person could access their own, but I couldn't access my memory. Some people who posted stuff that I had posted years before were able to repost it, but I, the original person who made the post, just couldn't access my memories. I came into the public space around this time and I mentioned it. And then after a while, after like 2-3 years, it stopped. I could access my memories again. And it reminded me of something that had happened, a debate that had taken place between myself and my assistant. I had religiously demanded that my memories on Facebook be reposted on the anniversaries. And the reason is very simple. My reason is that I had found that as long as you have told the truth, memories are consistently repeating what had been said in the past, get nothing that divides them. Even the evidences of their own highs are quickly forgotten. And he was still speaking to things that were happening in the present that would suggest that nothing had changed. And then I realized very quickly that the truth has prophetic properties, but those are truths found, and those are words that are found on truth. So I now began to realize that one of the reasons my Facebook memory was being attacked, and I say that deliberately, was an attack by Meta and the Nigerian government. It was because my words were beginning to take on the gaps of prophecies. My memories, when repeated, began to seem like prophecies that were given years back, but they were no prophecies. They were simply the truth that I spoke about what I was looking at in the moment. And so, speaking the truth in the moment, building truthful memories guides a society to sanity. If we, as a society, instead of doing this, now becomes deliberate in our attempt at distortion of memories or deletion of memories so that people do not remember what had gone before, how do they guide themselves into the future? Sometime in this last week, a collection of men and women sat in Abuja, and a decrepit man, lacking in integrity, a man who blighted this country, was launching a book. He was launching a book where he essentially honed up to the crimes that he committed against the Nigerian people and the Nigerian state. A crime that culminated in the ruination of multiple lives, the death and burial of untold numbers in unmarked graves. He didn't tell us, by the way, who killed Dele Giwa. Not a word. At least I haven't seen any from the excerpts that have been flying around with the book that they are deliberately giving away cheaply because it's a bundle of lies. But sat in that room, before talking about those sat in that room, I think it is important that, without intending to scandalize anyone, I must draw this parallel quickly. About 2-3 years ago, I ran into some video of members of the family of a dead politician, one of those who was actually murdered by the coupists in the first coup. And his children were celebrating, I think, a memoriam in his honor. But here is where I was. At the point when their father was killed in the first coup, the man was reputed as being the most corrupt of Balewa's ministers. But by the time his children were celebrating his memorial, he was being celebrated as a great nationalist. This is possible in a society that has failed to document its history, or that has resorted to a distortion of history, So those who should be examples of reprobates are being eradicated, even as the witnesses of that history have died out. So as a society, when you fail to document history, you concede the right to write whatever they care in their hagiographic exercises. So yeah, Babangida can sit down, probably pay some fat cat ghostwriter, tell his story of disservice to a people and to the memories of multiple persons whom he disrespected with his many lies, half-truths, and urban legends. And if we, shall fail to take on the duty of preserving our memories and writing our stories, we will yet find that in generations to come, the rogues will be the ones being applauded, and they would have managed to criminalize the saints. The real heroes would have been forgotten. And then in that all, you have what I would call the mutual validation club. One of those, and I'm not talking about written history, I was there as a witness of history. I remember Chief Obasanjo, or shall I say General Obasanjo, in that season, talking about how Abiola was not the Messiah that Nigeria required. And when that Messiah came to power in 1999, stepping on the blood of Abiola, he did nothing to acknowledge the sacrifice of Abiola. He spent 8 years running away from the ghost and shadow of Abiola. And in looking to erase Abiola's memory, he desecrated even the memories of all those who lost their lives in the struggle for the actualization of June 12. The many lies about Abiola began to fly around in those days to justify painting him out and refusing to acknowledge the sacrifice. So the Mutual Validation Club was right there. Obasanjo was in attendance. And there he was, even as Ibrahim Badamashi Babangida was acknowledging what we already all knew. MKO won the election. So what was IBB telling us? Oh, I forget. The Mutual Validation Club was right there. The Jagaban of the universe, who today sits in Aso Rock, a beneficiary of Abiola's sacrifices, was also sat there. Oh, and don't worry. I'm sure Mr. Peter Obi already knows exactly what I think of his attendance at that gathering. Nobody sat in that, and he was still speaking to things that were happening in the present that would suggest that nothing had changed. And then I realized very quickly, gathering covered themselves with any glory. It shows a crass lack of sensitivity for those who have suffered and are continuing to suffer as a result of what happened in 1993. IBB will be forever defined by the evil it did on that day, or rather to that day. IBB is busy pontificating and blaming everybody but himself. A gathering of vultures. So let's be clear. All those who gathered there were merely members of a mutual validation club. Ibrahim Babangida told us nothing we didn't know. All he did was what he has always done. Play one end against the other. With one mouth, he was talking about how it wasn't an Igbo coup. With the same mouth, he was talking about how Awolowo is not a lover of the Igbo people. What does it matter now? Which one is which? After how many dead? What does it matter? We have a duty to remember. Because in this land, we're becoming a land of amnesiacs. We remember nothing of consequence, but we also forget nothing that will divide. The Igbo this, Yoruba that, Fulani this, Hausa that, Ijaw that. There is always a reason to be divided. There is always a reason to be divided. Or have you seen them divided in their gathering of vultures? You forget too easily. But they never forget how easy it is to confuse you. They always stick with the script. We owe a debt to those who have died, not to forget. We owe a debt to ourselves who are yet alive, not to forget. We are the sum total of our memories, and when we as a collective forget everything of importance, how do we guide ourselves into our future? We owe a debt to those who have died. Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola is no more today. He can't speak for himself. All the pernicious lies that have been told since his death to justify the annulment of the election, they were barely afterthoughts. I voted in that election. I wasn't a child. I was old enough to vote, and it was the first election in which I voted. All these pernicious accusations came after the fact, just to justify the annulment, to justify what a bunch of ne'er-do-well sat down in a room to do. If he was a drug pusher, why wasn't this in the public space for us to decide whether we wanted a drug pusher or not? That was in the public space in 2023, and it didn't make any difference to the outcome because our choice did not count. The only reason our choice did not count was because it did not in 1993. If our choices had mattered in 1993, they wouldn't have dared 30 years later to tell us to go to court. Let us be clear about that. We have a duty to the dead to remember. Those who died, whether they were active participants in the protests against Babangida, the subsequent ruination under Abacha, everything that followed from June 12, 1993 till date, all the evils that have overtaken this country are traceable to the many actions of Ibrahim Badamashi Babangida before June 12, crystallized on June 12. The ultimate expression of citizenship is the right to choose who leads you. That is the ultimate expression of citizenship. In the absence of the right to choose your leaders, you are not citizens, you are subjects. I expressed my right as a citizen to vote on the 12th of June, 1993. That right was taken away from me by a group of thieves led by Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, ably explained away by General Obasanjo, originally resisted by the likes of Bulaba, who are today beneficiaries of that evil, but have all forgotten and are today more repressive than what we all fought at that time. Please, you have a duty to remember. We cannot be the land devoid of memories because your memories guide your future. In the absence of memories of where you have been, how do you remember where you are going? Yorùbá will say, "Tọ́mọdé bá ṣubú, àwòwájú, tágbàlagbà bá ṣubú, ẹ̀yìn ló ń wò." If the youth stumbles, he looks forward. When the elder stumbles, he looks back. The only reason he's looking back is because he wants to know exactly what is it that he just tripped over, given the fact that he's been around the block many times. He should know better. His memory guides him to demand to know why. What is guiding us to demand to know why? Do you really believe that 2023 would have happened if 1993 had not happened? When are you going to make this critical connect? IBB can never repay the debt he owes. Only God will demand recompense of him, because obviously those who have come after him have been even more worse than him. So, make no mistake about it. IBB told no truths that were hitherto unknown. And he admitted to the most controversial of all, only in an effort to subjectify every one of the many lies by which he has defined his life. So move on. If you're looking for truth, stop doubting your own memories. Look for truthful accounts of history. And look for those who will tell you the truth. Do not be the land devoid of memories. But be careful where you read your history. Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida is not a witness of truth, and his place in the gallery of rogues is all but assured. And he said, I will see you all next week. And when you're coming to church next week, come with your tithes and your offering. And before I go, it is critical for all of us to remember this. In the absence of electoral reform, and I mean meaningful electoral reform, one that allows for independent candidacy, one. Two, that demands transmission of results from BVAS to IREV, not at the discretion of INEC, but compulsory transmission. Diaspora voting. Those are the three legs of electoral reform that might make 2027 meaningful. In the absence of that, don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. Even with that, you still have to be vigilant. But in the absence of that, don't waste your time. You see the politicians moving from one party to the other. The political transfer season has commenced. But the only commodity in that market is you. Whilst they are busy uniting themselves, finding mega platform, forming party and alliances, you see the short devil of Kaduna trapezing up and down the place. You see, I'm sure you've seen Brother Atiku going on his pilgrimage to Aremu, Kwakwanso going up and down the place. All politicians doing their things. Their transfer season has opened. You, the commodities, find yourselves before it's too late. The only way you matter is if your vote counts. Your vote must count. Don't forget that. So I will see you next week. Stay blessed. Love you all. God bless.
So guys, you have heard it for yourself. Everybody is condemning IBB. Some people are saying that why now? While others like the Igbos, I mean the Ohanese have said it is better late than never. I mean IBB is saying that it's good it came out from the mouth of a northerner. Because like in my last video, I read out how many Igbos that were kpied, you know. Cases where the Igbos have been kpied for just no reason. You know, so Ohanese is saying that it is better than never. It is better late than never. For those who are saying that why now he should be prosecuted, he should be kpied, he should be... a Yoruba man out of anger said he deserves a bullet in the head. So you can imagine to that extent, people are not happy. But at the same time, many people are applauding IBB that he had the courage. He was not scared of his fellow Hausa men who would not want him to come out to say the truth. He came out and said that this coup was not an Igbo coup. It was even meant to install a Yoruba leader, not for the Igbos. But guess what? They went ahead to massacre. They went ahead to deal with the Igbos. Honestly, it's an unforgivable experience. But we pray that God will help us to forgive. Looking at how the Igbos have been hated, they've been kpied, they've been denied position. The Igbos cannot serve in politics. You know, any position that is given to an Igbo man is the rejected one. Is the rejected one. That's what they give to the Igbos for no reason. And look at the contribution of Igbos in this country. It's mind-blowing. And then till now, the Igbos are still going through this. Even the post-Biafran war, whatever. All the things they promised to do, nobody is sticking to it. Nobody is even remembering it. So guys, let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. Honestly, it's so pathetic talking about this headline. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell. Please give this video a like so that YouTube can recommend it to others. And drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you.